pleased to have back here on the Rich Eisen Show the Grammy and Emmy Award-winning multi-instrumentalist releasing his new album, Alone with My Faith, available on March 19th, Harry Connick Jr. How are you doing, Harry?
What's happening, Rich?
How you been?
I've been great, man. You know, getting through this pandemic, staying safe, and keeping my fingers crossed that everybody makes it through to the other side.
Yeah, I'm knocking on wood right here for all that. And so the album that we're talking about, you created during lockdown in your home. Is that a true story?
I did, yeah. So we were on tour last year, and like everybody else, everything just got canceled. So I came home, and I should note that I was one of the fortunate ones who got to spend that time at home. And I was thinking I'd like to do an album, maybe, you know, an album I always wanted to do was a gospel album. And I started recording some tunes by myself. I played all the instruments and set up all the mics. And as the weeks passed, I started thinking about my faith. And to be quite honest with you, I'm Catholic, but I was thinking, you know, my faith is really strong right now, or some days I was, you know, standing on shaky ground a little bit. And so I wrote about all of that stuff, and as I talked to people over the course of the weeks and months, I found that a lot of people were going through the same thing. So the album is some spirituals that everybody knows, like The Old Rugged Cross and How Great Thou Art, but it's also got a lot of other songs that are based on how I was feeling at the time.
Yeah, and you know, we're going to be hearing quite a bit about you know, a 1-year anniversary this week. It was 1 year ago this week, and throughout the week, where lockdowns began across the United States, where where I guess coast to coast, a lot of people began to realize just the seriousness of this situation. And so, how long did it take for you to soak in what was happening and say, let me now turn to music to try and put this all down so I can commemorate and memorialize all of this, Harry? Well,
for the first couple of weeks, I'm sure you remember how you felt. I mean, I didn't know what the heck was going on. I mean, we didn't know anything. I mean, we were, you know, Windexing every grocery bag and, you know, shoes, and for the longest time, because we just didn't know. And for the first couple of weeks, I filmed this YouTube show from my basement called Hunker Down with Harry, basically, you know, to give people maybe some diversion or some respite from what was going on. But it was a lot for me, too, because I felt like I was able to share my feelings with everyone. But after that, you know, couple of weeks, I said, let me record some music about this, because I've never recorded in real time what I was feeling. Like if you go through a breakup or somebody in your family is sick or dies, the last thing I want to do is go make music about it, because I'm dealing with the grief and the loss. But this was different because everybody was going through the same thing. I was by myself. I had all of these instruments around me, and I said, let me try to articulate musically what I'm feeling, and that's what I ended up doing.
And did you pick up a new instrument, or is just all stuff that you knew already how to play?
Well, the newest instrument that I have is called a harpeggi. It's actually pretty cool if you or your listeners want to look it up. It's spelled Harpejji. And this guy in Baltimore makes it with his wife and children. And it's kind of like it's like a wooden slab with strings on the top, and you kind of hammer the strings, but it's not like any other instrument, like a dulcimer or something. It's kind of like a piano and kind of like a guitar. So I've had that for a year. That's my most recent instrument. But I played, you know, on the record, I played trumpet and saxophone and bass, drums, and do all the vocals. The hardest part, Rich, was being the recording engineer, because that's not my skill set. So, you know, miking all the instruments was a little treacherous for a while, but I figured it out.
Well, Harry, you know, I know we hadn't spoken in a while, but, you know, my house is your house. I have an audio executive here. That's how he wants to be known. It's a sound engineer. He's Mike Del Tufo. He's from New Jersey. He very rarely makes a mistake, and when he does claim to say my bad. Could you have helped Harry on this sort of thing?
I totally could have helped him.
Okay.
I've mixed bands. I used to mix on the Tonight Show.
We could have helped. Rich, you could have helped me. That's how bad I am.
No, come on now.
I would have loved it.
I got to be honest with you. I've never heard of the harpeggi before, so I don't know how I'd be able to mix a harpeggi, to be honest with you. Did I even pronounce it correct?
You got to, as we say in New Orleans, you play like you live, man. You just rock and roll, figure it out, and, do what you got to do.
Harry Connick Jr. here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, let's get into it. Can you give me any insight as to whether Drew Brees is going to continue to play football with the New Orleans Saints? Because we're all expecting him to move on to his next act, which we're all sure is going to be as great as his last. What do you think, Harry? What do you know? Anything?
I mean, I know Drew. I've known him for a while, but I would never ask him that just because, I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, even during the season, I would never text him. It just freaks me out. But, I mean, I hate to see him go. I mean, but I think he could probably play another year. All of the stuff he was dealing with besides his ribs this year makes me think that he could have thrown the ball a lot farther down the field. Like, apparently his foot was jacked up and he had a shoulder injury. So, I don't know, man. I mean, if he comes back, I'm all for it. But I'm also a huge Taysom Hill fan. Like, I've said that to people in the business, and they're like, come on, man. He's not a starting quarterback. But I really think he is. I just think, give him some time in the preseason and let him play. I love Taysom Hill, man. Everybody gets excited when he goes in. So whatever happens, it'll be for the best. I'm sure Coach Payton knows what to do.
I guess here on this show we're covering all our New Orleans celebrity bases. We had the actor Anthony Mackie here. He loves Jameis. He wants Jameis. He thinks that Jameis could push the ball down the field.
I love Jameis Winston too. I mean, his arm is so ridiculous, but man, I think the potential for interceptions is so high. But, like, when he came in on that one play and threw it, like, 60 yards down the field, I mean, that's awesome. But I think our screen game is so important. I don't know. I wouldn't want to tell Jameis Winston to his face that I'd rather see Taysom Hill start, but I'd rather see Taysom Hill start.
So who was your Saint growing up, Harry? Who was that guy when you were growing up watching the Saints?
Well, I liked a bunch. I mean, obviously I like Archie, but I like people. I like Elo Grooms and like Danny Abramowitz and all people like that.
Sure.
I love Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills. I love that whole era. When the Snake was in there, I loved him. I mean, there's so many. I even have one of Aaron Brooks' shoes in my house. I'm a diehard fan.
Now I have to stop you there, Harry. What do you mean? By the way, did you play the Aaron Brooks shoe on your new album? I mean, because I don't know. I mean, what do you mean? It's
track 4 on Amazing Grace. That's the shoe. I'm flicking off the dry dirt off the cleats, and it sounds just like a tambourine.
What do you mean you have an Aaron Brooks shoe in your house? Just one singular Aaron Brooks shoe?
I have a shoe. I have like a bunch of memorabilia. I have Michael Thomas signed a jersey to me the first year. I got all kinds of stuff like that, and I don't know how I ended up with it, but I actually have one of as I say it, Rich, I realize that this is not my finest moment, but I do actually have his shoe.
No, it shows your fandom, Harry. It really does. If you're
I'm a big Saints fan.
No, if you just come into it, surf into it, you might counsel the Brooks family to get a restraining order, but it just shows off your. It shows off your.
Who's to say they don't already have one?
It shows. Well, now if you're going to start,
I actually stole it from his house while he was home.
Now, if you're gonna say you got a Bobby Hebert sock, then that's the end of this conversation. You know what I mean? Now we're gonna.
I would love that. You know that
to
man.
Go with the shoe.
That would be that's the holy grail.
Oh my gosh! Then we gotta talk about the future here. But no, in all honesty, though, it just shows off your fandom. Do you have a similar love for the Pelicans now and Zion, or is hoops not really your game? Or
I love them, but obviously the history's not there like with the Saints. But yes, I love the Pelicans. But I don't know if you know this, but I had a TV show called The Harry Show a couple of years back, and one of the things we did was to go down to New Orleans, and Mickey Loomis actually signed me for a day. So I was a Saint for a day.
And what'd you do?
But I was petrified because of the prospect of being traded. Can you imagine, like, doing like a celebrity signing and they trade you?
Well, I mean, that would be I don't know what would be the equivalent to come back in a trade, Harry. I mean, they can't get value.
Yeah, it'd be tough. I mean, you'd have to, get your manager involved, calling other teams, to save face. But they did actually sign me to a one-day contract. And I know this sounds crazy, or maybe not. I mean, you guys are the best people to talk to about this.
Yes.
My heart exploded because those guys they're like they're gods. I mean, what musician would not love to be an athlete? And since I have no athletic skills at all, just to be down there, like to be on the field and watch those guys, and just the stupid, phony ceremony of signing that contract was it was like worth more to me than any award I've ever won, for anything else.
Well,
it was a dream come true.
Harry, if you're ever in that situation again, Harry Connick Jr. here, let me help you out here, because I can safely attest to the fact that, yes, you're a musician strolling onto a field of world-class professional athletes, and you're like, okay, every musician wants to be an athlete, but the reverse is true. Every athlete wants to be a musician.
I've heard that too.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
The center for the basketball center, David Robinson.
Yes,
he came and sat in and played bass with me one day.
How was it?
So I get it.
How was it?
There's a lot of mutual admiration.
Well, I mean, there's a ton of players, football, basketball, who think that they can rap, that they have the ability to be some sort of a star. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, we all know, has been attempting to do that sort of thing. Le'Veon Bell, I know that he's Damian Lillard.
Great. I mean, those guys are so creative at what they do. I love it. It's just, and it's fun to see them. Whenever an athlete comes to one of our shows, I think the last one who came was Kurt Warner, and it's just the whole band freaks out. Like we can't get enough of that stuff. It's those guys are, they're heroes to us, and when they. The great people that we think they are. It's like Drew, like he's just a fantastic guy, and to it's inspiring. It's to know that he goes out there and does that. I mean, we go out on stage, but we don't have the physical dangers that they have, and it's just amazing. I mean, they're gladiators, and we're so thankful for that type of entertainment.
Before I let you go, Harry Connick Jr., again, his new album, Alone with My Faith, available on March 19th. That's just right around the corner. Give me a good story from Independence Day. Do you have one? How you got involved? Anything with Will Smith?
I have a great story.
Go for
it. They called
please.
and said, hey, we want you to be in this movie. It's going to be a giant blockbuster with Will Smith. And I said, okay, cool, send me the script. So they sent me the script, and I die on, like, the 6th page. I'm like, seriously? That's what you want me to do? And then I find out,
yes,
man, we sure are glad you're here because we asked Matthew Perry to do the part, but he couldn't do it. I'm like, okay, so I'm your second choice. And I died on, the 8th page. So there's my story.
So I did not know Matthew Perry was in line for playing Captain Jimmy Wilder. May he rest in peace. Spoiler alert.
He was from what I understand, he was the guy. And I came in and, did my thing.
Yeah. By the way, we had Chris Mortensen.
I gave it all I had.
We had Chris Mortensen of ESPN on before, and he heard that you were coming on. He and his, was he say it was his wife?
His wife was his wife.
Watched Copycat last night and wanted me to pass along to you about how dynamic and you were in that role, in that film, Harry.
That was you know what's crazy about that? I was 22, 23 years old. They said, look, they want you to meet this director. I met this guy named John Emile. He's from England. We sat down and talked for a minute. He says, what do you know about serial killers? I said, well, not much. I know, what I read in the papers. He says, can you do a really, really strong Southern accent? I said, yeah. I said, I know you're from England, but I kind of have one now, but I can jack it up and do some other accents, whatever region you want to talk about. And then I walked out, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to get that. And then he called my agent and said, yeah, I want Harry to play this part. And I'm thinking, what did I reveal to this guy in this half an hour that would make him think I could play this guy? So I never really asked him that because I didn't want to know, but that was a fun role to play too.
Well,
I had to sleep on the couch for a month after I did that movie.
Well, I hate to tell you, Harry, we know David Schwimmer was the first choice for that role. I'm sorry, that was just
that would have been such a vibe if David Schwimmer had played that part.
I don't know.
He could have just left. Not done an accent. It would have been so just. just an unusual sort of playing against type kind of part.
I don't know. That was just sitting right there for me to say. I'm sorry. I just been having my fun.
Yeah, no, I set them up, you knock them down.
That's my job, I guess. Hey, Harry, thanks for joining me on the show. Anytime. I would love to have you. If you just want to talk some ball, just want to get on, if you have an album to promote or whatever, I'd love to just continue a conversation. So I appreciate the call, and congrats on the album in advance.
Thanks, Rich. I'm a big fan. I have been for a long time. And
thank you.
Y'all stay safe.
We will do that. Thank you so much. Alone with My Faith, Harry Connick Jr. He played all the instruments. He mixed everything together. He said Mike Del Tufo could have helped him. He is obviously a great human. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.